Starfield is one of the most hotly anticipated games to come out in 2023, and it has been 8 years in the making for Bethesda. Traditional massive Western RPGs are rare this past decade, and Starfield has a major promise to live up to as it launches on Xbox in the middle of next year. New information has been shared privately by Bethesda Softworks, and former developers on the long project have spoken out about the scope, delivery, and wonder that will take us into this NASA punk role-playing adventure. An insight and overlook of this universe is nearly here, and it's bigger, brighter, and more imaginative than you expected. Bethesda Softworks' Todd Howard recently spoke out about the scale and scope of the studio's work on current games and the upcoming Starfield, and an artist lead on Starfield has given us a clearer picture on why the game has taken so long and saw the recent delay into 2023. First, former artist Nate Perkapile, who has worked at Bethesda for 14 years from Fallout 3 to Starfield, says that Starfield is much bigger than Bethesda's previous projects, with 500 developers involved and the difficulty in creating a brand new universe versus developing a follow-up title. In fact, he confirmed that about 500 developers are working on Starfield. He said, quote, "The scope of that project is the main thing that's different because, Fallout 3, Skyrim, Fallout 4, that was all one team. Fallout 76 was two mostly. We had a little bit of help from Montreal, but it was mostly the Austin and Maryland Bethesda studios working together. But yeah, Starfield is a much bigger project. It's like 500 people or something on the team, whereas I think Fallout 76 was maybe 200 tops." Fans are curious about the look of Starfield and how the game will play, and Nate explains, "There's not always solved problems for how things should look, which can be so many particular things like what shape are the metal planets, how do they bolt things together, what colors do you use, what materials do they have, how do you make a difference between all of these different areas? So that's much harder versus if you ask me, hey, make another follow-up game. You have to figure out everything, and there's all this extrapolative fiction to figure out too. You'd be shocked how many metal panels they did in concept," close quote. Procedural Generation has been used to create 1,000 planets players will explore in Starfield, but Perkapile couldn't go into the tech details, but he did offer some interesting points on how Bethesda would have to approach the situation. He said, quote, "The map of Fallout 76 is like almost 2 times the size of Skyrim or so, and that was a lot of work for people to do, but yeah, it doesn't scale. Even if you wanted to hire outsourcing, you'd have to hire like a country. Realistically, it's a fraction of that team actually working on planets." There are 4 major cities to explore in Starfield, but also has one of the most handcrafted sets of content in any Bethesda game title, with the main quest taking 30 to 40 hours to complete. But first, let's talk about Todd Howard. He spoke to the communications team recently in an unlisted interview about where Starfield is in development and why they made the controversial choices about how we will play the game next year. Starfield is considered a hard sci-fi genre in the sense that most mechanics and themes in the game are grounded in reality and mankind's projection into what the future holds in the interstellar. Todd Howard explains how realism clashes with video game mechanics and how they approach the cold dead of space.
Right, like a hard science fiction video game would be you die in space cold. And a good example, we were really into fuel and how the gravity drive works, and I'm reading papers on quantum physics and bending space in front of you. You don't actually warp, you bend the space, you bring the space towards you. And so we were playing that, and it became very punitive to the player. Your ship would run out of fuel and the game would just stop. You just want to get back to what you're doing, so we've recently changed it where the fuel in your ship and the grav drive limits how far you could go at once, but it doesn't run out of fuel. Maybe there'll be an update or a mod that allows that, but that's what we're doing now.
Character customization is very deep, much more than anything on offer in Skyrim or Fallout. Character traits can be molded to your playstyle. He explains.
I love our trait list, it's super fun, but each one obviously comes with some sort of negative as well. And we have a way in the game, kind of an activity or quest you can do to remove that trait, as opposed to, don't like my character, I want to start over. Each of them are something that you can solve that removes the entire trait for the rest of your playthrough.
Dialogue is no longer led by a voice actor recorded protagonist. The traditional well-loved Fallout 3 and Skyrim era speech checks are back. Todd explains and shows us how it will work.
We've done a lot of different dialogue systems. We've gone back to kind of I'll call it like a classic Bethesda style dialogue with you're looking at the character and how they emote. You have a series of choices there. The scope of the game, the amount of content we're making is a bit more than we've done before in terms of quests and things like that, but the depth in some of this stuff with the dialogue, we just passed 250,000 lines. And so that's a lot of dialogue, but we've gone through it and the impact is really there. And that includes my favorite speech persuasion system.
You're not talking us out of this score.
It feels like it's part of the dialogue, but you're spending points to persuade them.
You willing to give up the ship? Just like that?
It feels natural, not like I've entered some other mode where I'm not doing regular dialogue. It's just I'm in this mode of persuading you to get what I want.
Having a way with words might prove useful.
Going back to Todd Howard's discussion about speech checks and making alignments and character perks and traits that can be changed and molded in-game, we have to talk about the Crimson Fleet. The Crimson Fleet is the exact opposite of Constellation, the direct enemies to the establishment that are exploring space. Who are the Crimson Fleet? According to Bethesda's Instagram, the Crimson Fleet are pirates who will stop at nothing to take what is theirs. They are space pirates. The Crimson Fleet join the ranks of 7 known factions that have been revealed, including one of the main governments of the settled system, Freestar Collective, a megacorp of the Ryusian Industries, and the main faction of the Constellation. When it comes to the Crimson Fleet, they are the main bad guys representing one of the game's enemy factions, probably not the only ones. In Starfield, members of the Crimson Fleet can be identified by their use of the Jolly Roger pirate emblem. Where are the Crimson Fleet based? In the official gameplay reveal, the player can be seen stumbling across what appears to be a Crimson Fleet base on Crete, the moon for one of Starfield's planets. Whether this is the faction's home remains unclear. According to the trailer, this encounter with the Crimson Fleet marks just one dangerous interaction with the space pirates as they attack and show off Starfield's combat mechanics while they're at it. But it says the pirates of the Crimson Fleet have extended far beyond the Kirk system and have established footholds in the Sagan, Cheyenne, Lunara, and Narian systems. And yes, you can join the Crimson Fleet, and it appears that depending on the choices you make with this faction, your gameplay experience will be driven down a certain path. So whether you decide to join with the Crimson Fleet, your decision doesn't end there. The interactions you have with the faction can be good or bad, ally or sabotage. Director Emil adds, the cool thing about Crimson Fleet, what if you're a good person and you want to be a good player and you don't want to play as a bad guy? You can side with the pirates or you can report back to your superiors and be like a space cop type thing. So we let you be a cool person and still play with the bad guys, close quote. Choice is paramount to Starfield and allowing you to build the character how you want, being able to play on both sides in the universe and build your perks and your stats to be the character you want to be in this massive RPG. The music director, Ian Zur, shared some interesting thoughts about the game's story, and according to him, Starfield is a deep and philosophical game that will consume a lot of your existence. He says it's more than just another shooter or RPG. He states that Starfield's story takes a very courageous step into the realm that is more philosophical. It isn't about how the game looks or how the game plays, but it's about the aspects being incredible. He finds that Starfield is all about its story and your ability to write your own within its framework of its narrative. It's also about your ability to ask questions, seek relevant answers, and perhaps be able to reach them. Starfield is turning out to be the things we love about Fallout, Elder Scrolls, and classic legacy traditional RPGs, with new mechanics folded into the major AAA adventure to come. According to Xbox, the game is set to release before June 2023, but knowing Bethesda and the messaging of polishing things up for an optimal release, we could see the game shown early next year and possibly be released in the spring. There is a lot to look forward to shoot, travel, build, and create. Starfield will not be just a huge popular game in 2023, but will probably be the most talked about game of the generation. This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I'm so excited for Starfield, and I really get into these massive RPGs, especially from Bethesda, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for us, and hearing Todd Howard talk about the intricacies and what we'll do with our choice with the characters and the dialogue is a major change that has been waiting, which we didn't get in Fallout 4. If you ended up enjoying this video, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell to be notified of new weekly content. And if you want to further support the work we're doing here on the Colteastwood channel, you can do that by joining the channel membership button below. And that gets you early access to videos before they go live and gets you entered into monthly merch giveaways. And what, Loki? Also gets you access to the X&C Podcast Club on the Xbox that will get you party chat and hangout times, which you can join the Patreon below for that information. But if you want to hear more, we have the X&C Podcast every week. Say hi, Loki. Every week that will get you news with Gaz, my co-host, and that's every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Let me know what you think about Starfield and if you're excited about this new information. I can't wait to see new gameplay. And while you're in the comment section, you know how people are. They're going to be crazy, but as I always say, and as Loki should say, please be nice.